Star Trek, the original series, may have all sorts of nostalgia going on, but the next generation is where the awesomeness really is at. Time for another top 10 list. Today, my favorites from the next generation. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Today, just Jim here, the father, ready to talk TNG. Zach likes it too. He's just not available here today. If you enjoy what I have to share with you on this fantastic top 10 list, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. Thanks. The Next Generation debuted my sophomore year of college. And after years of enjoying the original series rerun after rerun after rerun, it was so excellent to finally have some new content. And not just new, next level content. The special effects, the storylines, the characters, everything was so much better. And these episodes, they still hold up. They are just delightful to watch. Today, I've got a top 10 list for you, my favorite episodes, and I'd argue they are the 10 best episodes from the entire 7-season run. Will I include the ones that you think are top 10? Well, that's to be discerned. Hopefully, I'll get at least a few of them. There's so many to pick from. Again, this is back when every season had 25, 26, 27 episodes. It's a lot of content to get just 10. But I've done the work here, people, and I think you will be pleased. Regardless of how pleased, though, let me know your thoughts in the comment box. Share the episodes that I didn't catch that you really think belong somewhere on this list. I'd love to hear about it, and I will be sure to respond. Regarding the format for this top 10 list, I'm just going to list the name and broadcast details of each episode, a brief plot summary, and then a piece of trivia to go with each of them. I don't have to go too deep. You're all Star Trek Next Generation fans. You'll understand. Let's get to the list. Number 10, Encounter at Farpoint, a 2-part episode that actually all poured out on the same day, September 28th, 1987. Encounter at Farpoint is the pilot episode of TNG, so it's just gotta be here on my list. Is it really top 10 material? Only because it finally brings us back Star Trek and establishes the character of Q, who's going to be a recurring guest and one of my favorite elements of this show. But what else does it do? Well, it introduces Jean-Luc Picard as captain of the Enterprise D, as he and his crew are investigating the mysterious Farpoint station. The crew encounters this powerful being, Q, who puts humanity on trial for past crimes. As they explore Farpoint, they discover it's a living entity being held captive. The crew chooses to free this entity, and that resolves a mystery and proves humanity's worthiness to Q. Man, I love Q. I remembered the actor when he was on Days of Our Lives when I was just a kid. So when I saw him here, I'm like, I know this guy, but I didn't know this guy. What he brought to this episode and this role, fantastic. Trivia for you about the Encounter at Farpoint is that DeForest Kelley makes a brief cameo appearance at the end of part 1 of this 2-parter as Admiral Leonard McCoy. This bridges the original series to the Next Generation. And in show years, this would have made McCoy 137 years old, and the makeup crew did a good job making him look it. 2 other original series core crew people will appear on the Next Generation. We'll get Spock eventually, and we get Scotty. We'll get Kirk too, but not till the movies. Episode number 9 for me, my 9th best, is Relics. Season 6, Episode 4, first airing October 12th, 1992. I was just talking about Scotty, and here's where we're going to get him. Because in Relics, the crew of the Enterprise discovers a Dyson sphere. And in doing so, rescue Montgomery Scott, Scotty! He's been trapped in a transporter loop for 75 years. Adjusting to this future, Scotty feels obsolete. I mean, 75 years is a big time for technology to advance, and he's an engineer. That's his jam. Man, he's just lost. But he will prove his worth ultimately by helping to save the Enterprise from a catastrophic situation involving that Dyson sphere. The episode highlights themes of legacy, adaptation, and respect for experience. And personally, I just loved seeing an actual Dyson sphere. I mean, that was so cool. Trivia for this episode: the reconstruction of the original Enterprise's bridge for use in a holodeck sequence was assisted by the donation of the helm console and a captain's chair by a fan who'd made a set for himself. Number 8, Who Watches the Watchers? Season 3, Episode 4, appearing October 16th, 1989. In Who Watches the Watchers, the Enterprise aids a hidden observation post who are monitoring the pre-warp civilization of the Mintakans. Now remember, we have something called the Prime Directive that, unlike in the original series, they're actually going to try to respect a little better here in Next Generation. Non-interference in a less advanced species. So they're observing, they're learning, but they don't want to be seen. Well, when the Mintakans discover these observers, they actually mistake Captain Picard for a deity. And this messes a whole bunch of stuff up. The crew has to carefully correct this cultural contamination without further violating the Prime Directive. Picard works to restore the Mintakans' natural development, emphasizing the importance of non-interference to the rest of his crew, because that really makes things hard here. And with that, we have to respect other cultures' evolutionary paths. Picard is so committed to this that he even takes an arrow to the shoulder, which actually could have killed him, in order to accomplish the mission. Trivia from this episode: it was filmed at Vasquez Rocks, a national park area just north of Los Angeles. Now, this is the same location that 4 episodes of the original series was filmed, including Arena and Shore Leave. When they filmed this, it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It was brutally hot. And the cast and crew could not wear deodorant or perfume because it would attract local bees, snakes, and scorpions. Ugh. Number 7 on my top 10 list is Yesterday's Enterprise. Now, that's Season 3, Episode 15, and first aired February 19th, 1990. In Yesterday's Enterprise, the Enterprise D encounters a temporal rift through which the Enterprise C emerges. Now that messes up the timeline, so things shift. Suddenly we're in a new reality where the Federation is at war with the Klingon Empire. The Enterprise D changes dramatically. It becomes a ship at war. Even the crew is different. There's no Worf, there's no Counselor Troy. And Tasha Yar, who was killed years before in our original timeline, is still present, still running tactical. Everybody's just going on like this is the way things always have been, except Guinan. Guinan's a little different, not just your average human from Earth. She's an alien species, and she's got some special perception abilities. She's able to sense that, hey, reality has shifted here. This is not right. And meeting with Captain Picard, she convinces him, we got to put things right. As the crew works to restore the timeline, Tasha Yar learns of her fate and chooses to return with the Enterprise C to ensure its sacrifice restores peace. This episode explores sacrifice, therefore, and also destiny. Trivia for this episode: it was nominated for an Emmy for sound mixing and also for sound editing, which it won. Number 6 on this list is Chain of Command, a 2-part episode that appeared December 14th and December 21st, 1992. In this one, Captain Picard is replaced as commander of the Enterprise by the strict Captain Jellicoe due to a covert mission against the Cardassians that's been planned. Picard, Worf, and Dr. Crusher infiltrate a Cardassian base. Unfortunately, they're captured. Picard undergoes brutal interrogation by Gul Madred. Meanwhile, tensions rise between Captain Jellicoe and the crew because he's no Picard and they don't understand his orders. Picard's resilience under torture and Jellicoe's tactical maneuvers do eventually lead to Picard's release and the prevention of a war. Trivia. This two-part episode brought the Cardassians back into the series. They'd first been introduced back in season 4. It also lays out for us, sets up this Cardassian-Bajoran conflict, which is the foundational backdrop for the next Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine, which launches just a month after these aired. Bonus trivia. We're given plenty of reasons not to like Captain Jellicoe. Sadly, there was originally a scene between Jellicoe and Geordi LaForge showing a warmer, more personal side of Jellicoe that got cut for time. All right, number 5. These are getting really intense now. The Measure of a Man. Season 2, Episode 9, first airing February 13th, 1989. Some of you are going, why does he keep saying first airing? You know, back in this day, we actually sent TV episodes over airwaves. There was no cable. In The Measure of a Man, Lieutenant Commander Data's sentience is put on trial when a Starfleet scientist wants to disassemble him for research. I mean, he's just a machine, right? Captain Picard defends Data's rights, while Commander Riker is actually forced to argue against him. Two sides of the trial. This trial examines the nature of consciousness and personhood, ultimately ruling in Data's favor. The episode highlights themes of individuality, ethics, and the moral implications of artificial intelligence, perhaps even more relevant today than when it aired. Trivia for us, this is the first episode in which the weekly officer's poker game is shown. We will see that time and time again after this. Number 4, Cause and Effect, Season 5, Episode 18, premiering March 23rd, 1992. In Cause and Effect, the Enterprise D becomes trapped in a time loop, repeatedly experiencing its own destruction. This was awesome to see on the screen. The crew, going through this again and again, begin experiencing deja vu. And they start noticing subtle changes with each iteration that they live through. Eventually, they piece together clues and send a message to themselves in the past and break the loop. The episode showcases themes of time, memory, and perseverance as the crew works to escape this seemingly endless cycle. Trivia for this one, the costumes for the officers of the Bozeman are those used in the Star Trek feature films, beginning with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, helping establish how out of time the Bozeman was. Number 3 on my list, I, Borg. Season 5, Episode 23, May 11th, 1992, the original air date. In I, Borg, the crew rescues and rehabilitates a lone Borg drone, naming him Hugh. As Hugh develops individuality, Captain Picard and the crew grapple with the moral implications of using him to destroy the Borg collective. Ultimately, they decide against exploiting Hugh, choosing instead to respect his newfound autonomy. This is not an easy decision for them to make. They really struggle with all the possible ethical and moral implications. Thus, this episode leans into themes of identity, compassion, and the ethical treatment of former enemies. Trivia, we would later learn the fate of Hugh in Season 7's opening episode, the conclusion of the two-parter Descent. Number 2, what could it be? All Good Things, a two-parter, season 7, episode 25 and 26, both airing on May 23rd, 1994. This is the series finale of Star Trek The Next Generation. In this one, Captain Picard finds himself shifting between three different time periods: past, present, future. He discovers a temporal anomaly that threatens humanity, orchestrated by Q as a test. Remember, Q was there in the beginning, Q is here at the end. Picard must solve the puzzle by connecting events across the timelines, ultimately realizing that his actions in each period are crucial. The episode explores themes of time, destiny, and the enduring bonds of the crew. It was really hard not to include more Q episodes in my top 10 list, as I enjoyed each and every one of them. But again, at least I've got the bookends here on the list. Trivia. This 2-hour conclusion to Star Trek The Next Generation, as a TV series, we certainly get more of them in the movies. It was the highest rated episode of the entire series, and it went on to win the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. Okay, if that incredible episode is only number 2, what could be number 1? You guys know, The Best of Both Worlds. Episode 1 and 2, this was the season 3 finale, so episode 26 is season 3, and then this massive cliffhanger that we waited for months until we got season 4, episode 1. So the first one, that's June 18th, 1990, and then we had to wait till September 24th, 1990 to get the finish. In The Best of Both Worlds, the Borg capture and assimilate Captain Picard, transforming him into Locutus, with the mission to lead an invasion against the Federation. Commander Riker faces the challenge of stopping the Borg while grappling with the potential loss of Picard. The crew eventually devises a risky plan to rescue Picard and implant a command that will destroy the Borg cube. This episode highlights themes of leadership, resilience, and sacrifice. And there really was no argument ever. This was peak Star Trek The Next Generation. My trivia for you here is that this was the first season-ending cliffhanger. Its popularity, bridging season 3 to season 4, led them to do the same freaking thing at the end of season 4, 5, and 6. And of course, they ended season 7, the whole series, with a 2-parter as well. They just didn't make us wait because there was no more. All right, that's my list. That's my top 10. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. Give me your comments. That's what the comment box is for. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while. We'll talk to you next time.